Welcome to Accounting High.
You reference a lot that you had other businesses that you sold and to then become, you're famous now, right? Like, so before, tell us about some of those.
Is it weird to, like, when people on, like, we know about you, but you have no idea?
It is a little
us.
weird. It's a little weird. So, not famous, but in certain scenarios, like someone will recognize
You're accounting
me.
famous.
Yeah, accounting famous. Or accounting hate, like infamous too. Some accountants hate me.
Hi, class is in session. It's time for shoperations at accounting. Hi, class is in session. It's time for shoperations at accounting. Hi, class is in session. It's time for shoperations at accounting. Hi, class is in session. It's time for shoperations at accounting. Hi, kids. Do you like operations? It's Wednesday Accounting High, talking systems and processes, talking shop about operational balances, accounting, workbench to workflow challenges, hybrid teams for Pete's sake. I'm trying to manage through screens, but I can't figure out which Zoom window's my next meeting. And Dr. K says,
Acuity uses EOS. Entrepreneurial operating system.
Well, since 2012, my firm's been in the cloud. Join us as we go deep. I'll try not to run it to the ground. We're sharing profit and loss and managing back office. The tax staff just quit. Tried to hire on LinkedIn, no luck. And scope creep team count CAS. Automate tax, compliance transactions, ID and bottlenecks. Come on, ops. Scotty, wait a minute. It's my firm, dog. I know, and I said you could run it however you want. Hi, class is in session. It's time for shoperations at accounting. Hi, class is in session. It's time for shoperations at accounting. Hi, class is in session. It's time for shoperations at accounting. Hi, class is in session. It's time for shoperations at accounting. Hi.
Introducing the star of our show.
Scott Scarano, Jason Ackerman, and Mike Michalowicz.
We're gonna have a problem here.
Are you going to introduce our guest, Jason?
I'm really bad with names, obviously. First of all, are you Jewish? We're both Jewish.
No.
You have a very Jewish last name.
Very Jewish. It's Ukrainian. My father was raised Orthodox Catholic, Ukrainian, me Methodist, but it does sound Jewish. But I'll tell you, being Ukrainian is like the end thing all of a sudden. Like, oh,
yeah, are people just Venmoing you money?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a morbid joke, but it's true. Like, you know, like all of a sudden, like everyone's like, oh my God, that's amazing. You're so lucky. I'm like,
but we have Mike Michalowicz. Did I say that right?
well,
I butchered it.
I pronounce it, you're probably right. I pronounce it Michalowicz.
Very famous.
In the motherland, it's Michalowicz. So you can say whatever you want.
I should have said it in Yiddish.
You know what's the worst though? So Michalowicz, the translation means the Owitz means son of, and Michal is Michael, so it's Michael. So I am Michael, son of Michael, which is like the worst effing name. I went to my mother, who's still alive, and I said, "What's up with this? Why would you name me Michael, the son of Michael?" She's like, "Oh, that's adorable." That was her only response. Oh, that's adorable.
So it's alliteration though too, and it's like being Thomas Thompson, like or something of those sorts. But
That's
you
true.
got a very key alliteration though. That's the M and M.
Eminem. Eminem.
Yeah, Eminem.
8 Mile.
There's a lot of good M&Ms out there. You know, there's Mandy Moore, there's Mike Michalowicz, and there's Marshall Mathers.
NMM himself, you know.
Yeah, Eminem.
Yeah,
Or
Marshall
Slim Shady, if you
Mathers.
prefer.
So
Okay.
this is the real Slim Shady. Today we have the real Slim
Yes.
Shady on.
Well, the real Slim Shady show.
Yeah.
So, we were just talking before, and we want to know, first question, why did you pick the accounting vertical for your kind of profit first?
Well, yeah. So it kind of picked me-ish. So when I wrote Profit First as a cash management tool, and I wrote the first, so the book that Scott has strategically positioned behind him is the second release, but the first release when it came out in the manuscript form before it was to be published, I circulated with some people, and literally the same day I was sitting down, someone's like, oh, I read the first X pages, and who's the accountant that supports this? I'm like, well, what do you mean? They're like, I can't do this alone. I'm like, oh, okay. So, and that started coming in. So very quickly, I was like, oh, this is a membership organization. Like kind of going to a gym. Even though you know how to exercise, like, are you going to stick with it? Are you going to do something that doesn't injure you? So this is the professional trainers for the gym are now accountants for Profit First, and bookkeepers too.
So when you're writing the book, you didn't necessarily know that. You just were writing it for entrepreneurs because you wanted to make
a simple system. So I noted that my accountant went to me constantly saying, just read your income statement and your balance sheet and the cash flow statement. I don't know how to read any of those. And even my profit and loss, like I think I know how to read it. I really don't understand how to interpret it. I don't know if my accountant knows how to read a cash flow statement. I don't know if anyone really does. It's like so like heady for me. So I was writing this just to simplify it. And then when I started circulating the manuscript, before it gets published, I started asking people, and they're like, I need my accountant to do this with me. That's when I started integrating accountants into the book. So even with the first edition, I mentioned Profit First Professionals, which is our membership organization. And then the second revised and expanded edition, that's the one that really took off. It's fully integrated into there.
So you're a very prolific writer. Ackerman dove into this question. I didn't want to go right into accountants as a vertical. Honestly, I wanted to talk a little bit about you growing up.
That's so me. Intense. I ruin stuff, and
yeah, we'll eventually get there. But I want to hear, like, growing up, right? What did you want to be when you were growing up?
Garbage man.
I'm the trash man.
Did. I still have a little inkling of desire to move to your refuse.
Was it the smell?
Well, no. You could be a metaphorical garbage man. No,
those guys were tough. Like, you would see a guy hanging off a back of a truck, smoking a cigar, grabbing a barrel by one hand and flinging it in there, and this crap going everywhere, usually missing the truck. On the ground. And then and jumping back on, and like waving goodbye or saluting goodbye. But when you look at like actual practical execution of like superhero-ness, it's a garbage man. And I'm like, that's what I want to be one day. But I don't anymore. But I will tell you this. I would like to do a day run. I just don't think I'm tough enough for that career. I would do it for a day.
Well, especially if the weather was like, 70 and sunny, it's great. But like 20 degrees.
In my wife beater. I wear my wife beater undershirt with the one nip precariously showing just a little bit of it. Cigar hang. Just trying to give you the full effect.
The cigar is key.
Yeah, and it's got to be a stumpy cigar.
See,
and just munching on it.
In the South, it would be a pipe. Yeah, but in New Jersey, I think it has to be a cigar.
Yeah, in the South, it definitely would be a pipe. New Jersey is one of those long cigarettes.
A tobacco pipe. Like,
oh yeah, legit. Maybe even a corn cob. I think in New Jersey, it's the super long cigarette, like the in the plastic holder. Maybe that's more north of here. I don't know.
Do people still use those plastic holders? I don't see them much these days anymore.
No, I haven't seen those in a long time. But people used to use them, particularly women.
They did, yeah. And especially Virginia Slims.
Virginia Slim.
Yeah.
And you know why you did that plastic holder was so you didn't get the odor stuck to your fingers. You're welcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or the gloves. Yeah, you can
or the gloves. Yeah. Oh, you're super welcome.
I used to smoke with gloves on, so nobody.
Yeah, those long white gloves that were down to your near your elbow. I saw that.
Cool.
I saw that. It was all over the website. Yeah.
So when did your dream of being a garbage man get crushed? What did you end up going to school for?
Figuratively and literally crushed.
It's probably a kindergarten dream. I think by second grade, I'm like, no, I want to be a baseball player. But that was my first job dream. I remember that because my teacher was like, "You want to be what?" Because everyone like rattles off the same answer, and then like garbage man, they're like
astronaut,
astronaut, baseball player, policeman, firefighter.
I wanted to be an accountant.
When you were in kindergarten?
My grandfather was a CPA, and I looked up to him.
That's impressive. Yeah. Well, you know what? To your point, that's I think the second level to me at least. First level is like just arbitrary what you want. Kindergarten. Then by the time you get to a certain grade, for me, it was around second or third grade, you're right, I started to aspire to be like my dad. He was an engineer. So I'm like, oh, maybe I should do that. Then third stage for me is I saw the movie Wall Street, with Gordon Gekko. And, and I'm like, I started greasing my hair just like that. I'm like, I want to be a Gordon Gekko. Green is good. Then I went to college for finance, and I'm like, I don't know if I like this. So I ended up being a computer guy after college.
So this is the Michalowcz hierarchy of needs.
The Michalowcz hierarchy of aspirational dreams. And it comes full circle back to garbage man.
Yeah, the metaphorical garbage man. Tell us about the first business, because you reference a lot that you had other businesses that you sold and to then become, you're famous now, right? Like, so before, tell us about some of those.
Is it weird to, like, when people on, like, we know about you, but you have no idea?
It is
about
a little
us.
weird. It's a little weird. So not famous, but in certain scenarios, like someone will recognize
You're accounting
me.
famous.
Yeah, accounting famous. Or accounting hate, like infamous too. Some accountants hate me. So it is kind of weird when someone's like, "Oh, how's the lawn maintenance going?" Or or the driveway you're getting.
Yeah, but you are posting all kinds of stuff now. Like you'll go. I saw the car ride the other day where you'll do rapid fire questions about real personal stuff.
Oh, you saw that? Yeah.
Yeah, and you talked about the Bruce Springsteen concert. By the way, that was the first concert I've ever been to.
Oh my God, he was so good.
It was at the Meadowlands. Yeah,
he almost crushed my fingers when he stepped. Yeah, so you're right. So there's a small community that follows and hopefully is gaining benefit. The idea of sharing that stuff too is I don't like the people put themselves out there as the gurus. I hate that word. I don't like the people are self-fillators, in my opinion, put themselves on a pedestal. Look how amazing I am. I'm rich. You're not. You should follow me.
JJ the CPA.
Yeah, I hate that stuff. So
don't name names.
I won't name.
Sorry,
I won't name. The work I'm putting out there, I want people to realize it ain't spectacular. It ain't something new. I'm just taking ideas that worked in the past, packaging it in a slightly new way. I'm a regular Joe. It's worked for me, and I hope it serves others. And it's the truth. A. B. I think it's also more approachable to. When I see superstar person achieves this and that, I'm like, okay, but it won't happen for me because I ain't them.
You're really authentic. You're really true to you have a lot of consistency in the stories and everything you say because it's always the truth.
Yeah, thank you. That kind of works. Listen, I'm an exaggerator though. I'll take some stories and double down on it because they're just. I like to joke around, so I'll make stuff super funny. Funny to me at least. I
know, and the funnier it gets, the better the story gets, and sometimes the bigger the exaggeration gets. But it's always for the effect. Like if you're,
I think that's good storytelling. Like someone said, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. I think you got to exaggerate just to bring emphasis, but you can't. You have to be integral to the situation and the truth, because the second anyone is a charlatan, we will get found out, and then it ruins everything. Everything is ruined.
Like the guy who wrote A Million Little Pieces. I forgot his name.
Yes, it's so funny. I'm just reading I don't remember his name either, but I was reading the story. He comes out in Oprah, he's crying, I didn't know, it's not true.
James something, I forgot. Yeah, I know. And of course, and she should have belittled him, and she should have, because to a degree, he could have made that a fictional story.
My God.
And it would have been just as good.
I know. Or he could have done an autobiography that has fiction. There's a term for it, I think.
I forget.
Whatever. There's an opportunity to do that too, and I think you put it out that way. There's a thing called the pratfall effect, and this is true for all people. But when we see someone, particularly in a celebrity role, so you see a Tom Cruise or whoever the celebrity du jour is, the pratfall effect is when they have a human moment, a blooper, an error, they fall, they actually become more likable. So the blooper reels at the end of those movies is actually one of the biggest assets for the approachability of those celebrities. Otherwise, they're unapproachable and less likable.
Is it our empathy that makes them more approachable because you see that they're fallible, and then you're like, oh, I can relate to that because I'm fallible too?
Yeah, but I'm sure that's part of it. There's this interesting phenomenon I was studying, is that when we see someone in a superior position, would trigger, when I say superior, meaning they have something that we don't have, it triggers an envy response. An envy response, the only way to feel comfortable again in ourselves is to actually pull them down. I bet you with the Will
Crabs
Smith
in a bucket.
With the Will Smith slap heard around the world, I bet you a lot of people, and I know me too, a little bit of me said, ha ha, ha, you're not so good. Because that's an envy thing. Well, I don't have Will Smith's credentials or back. So now there's a little bit of a fault in him, and I'm like, oh, you're nothing. And I pull him down. And this is true for all celebrities. We look for a weakness that we can pull them down on when there's an envy position. But the pratfall effect, I think, avoids that. Is they say, I'm just human and flappable too, and then that envy's avoided. That's my own analysis. That's not backed
like
in any research or rigor. So.
Well, I like how your approach to a lot of you're a very prolific writer, and a lot of your approach is you're like a scientist. You're like, this is my theory, or this is how I'm.
Yeah.
And whatever you're going into, whatever topic, and most all your books are geared toward entrepreneurs. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Except for the children's book. And those are aspiring
future garbage men.
Future potentially garbage men. I mean, there's no shame in the garbage man.
There you go.
There's an element of performance, I think, or a showmanship that you have that I think is very engaging. Was there ever a point where you wanted to, like, be an actor,
be in theater,
or something like that? Theater, I don't know, performer.
Me want to be in theater? I don't know. And scene. That was a scene right there. That was my theater. Yeah, I didn't know, not really, but not really wanting to be in theater or an actor, but I definitely like to joke around. Like, okay, a backup job for me would have been a stand-up comedian. Like, that would have been, I think, fun. So, and I have studied, like, I've gone through improv training. I have studied the performance techniques and so forth. I habitually watch comedians because I love their work. But secondly, I noticed, oh my gosh, I've never seen a comedian use a PowerPoint. How come the rest of us are using PowerPoints? A comedian can keep like an audience engaged for like an hour and a half, no PowerPoint, and everyone's into it. So
practice. Who's your favorite comedian?
My favorite comedian?
Yeah.
Jim Gaffigan's up there. But I just saw live Bill, oh my God, I can't remember his name.
Bill Burr.
No, Bill Regan. Brian Regan.
Brian Regan.
Or Bill Regan. Brian Regan. He's an older comedian. Dude, this guy. Jim Gaffigan's excellent. You know who's Maniscalco? Have you seen that guy, Anthony? Or
yeah.
Dude, that guy. These guys, so Brian Regan, Maniscalco, Jim Gaffigan a little bit, but those two guys, the gesticulation, their hand movements and facial gestures are so effing good. I'm like, oh, that's performance. So those comedians I love.
I love comedy too, because it's truth. I think they're, modern day philosophers, comedians, and rappers. I think that, at least, and performers to a large degree. I think you get more truth in some of the stuff that they're saying than you can get on the news.
Yeah, and isn't it like laugh a fear response anyway, or something? Like, it's triggering something, and it's just like, ooh, and then we respond with the laughter. I don't know if it's a fear response, but I think it's something to that effect. Basically, they're poking a truth from an angle that we don't visualize that stuff often, and it is hysterical. I saw Maniscalco, and he performed locally, and he did a bit about how we respond to doorbell rings. 20 years ago versus today. It used to be like, "Hey, welcome to my house." Now it's like you're hiding, and you hope they don't see you. Like what's going on?
So, let me try to reel it back in because we don't have that much time.
So a good show though. It was fun.
I know. We usually
This is better.
usually
accounting's boring. This is better.
Yeah.
Accounting can get a little dry.
I used to, and I still do, GMAP. So tell me how that got started, the Grow My Accounting Practice podcast.
Oh, yeah, real quickly. So Write Private First, we have readers that say, I wish I had an accountant and bookkeeper that did this. Then we had accountants that said, I wish I knew how to do this. I'm like, oh, you don't just get it by reading the book? They're like, no. So like, okay. So we started teaching them, and we made the podcast originally to help people, accountants and bookkeepers, with the profit first concept, but then they're like, I don't really know how to scale my business. I don't know a lot of stuff. So like, let's just make this podcast into an all-encompassing thing.
Yeah.
So what's the when you talk to accountants, and it seems simple, profit first. Like, what's the hardest thing for most accountants to understand?
I think it's unwinding what we've been told. There's like thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of lessons, but there's books and college courses and all this online training. Everything tells you this is the way to do it, and it just repeats the same refrain. And the underlying principle is profit is a calculation that comes last. And we're saying profit is a behavioral response that when it comes first, everything else falls into alignment. And they're like, but that's not what we're told. And we're like, but this is the behavioral truth. And they're like, but that's not what I've been told. Unwinding, when you've been told something so many times one way and then you hear something different, not to harp on Russia and Ukraine, but what's interesting is the news I'm hearing about Russia is the state-controlled, the government-controlled media, they hear the same thing. Well, there's interviews with Russians, and their perception of this war is radically different. I mean, it's a total opposite feed of what's happening in the Western Front. And they're programmed. You can't believe anything different. Now we could be programmed too, so I don't want to get into like all this, kind of cerebral stuff. But once we hear the message enough times, that's the essence of propaganda. When you hear a message enough times, on the umpteenth time, you're like, oh, this must be the truth. When we hear profit comes last enough times, it's like, well, that's what it is. It's clearly the truth. And I'm saying, maybe it's not. Maybe that's illogical. I mean, it's a math equation, but maybe that's not a good way to operate a business equation. And they're like, I can't believe that. So that's what I have to unwind.
Well, you're reverse engineering it.
It's reverse engineering. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, you can back into anything if you start with the end. Right?
You sound like
That's
my
so
garbage
true.
man, 'cause he backs into anything. My mailbox like 6 times.
Oh, I love
That's
it.
That's called a callback joke. Jim Gaffigan, you're welcome.
Mic drop. Mic drop. We're gonna drop you in a
That's so
second.
true, like,
you
you
might
just
drop off of this
clip.
call in a second, right?
But even the metrics, like we talk about this all the time, like accounting metrics, it's all like, what's your gross revenue? What's like, but we never talked about profit, which you think would be the most important thing to figure out.
Well, we're trying to talk
Amen.
more about profit.
No, you're totally right. You're totally right. And the top line thinking is out. It's not just like accountants doing this. Like it's the whole entrepreneurial community. Like any magazine you look at, Inc., Fortune, any of these entrepreneurial rags, it's always like, look at the size of this business. It's the most unhealthy, sickly thing.
Yeah.
But look at the size. and then we're like, I want big. Everyone wants big. I have calls with entrepreneurs too. They say, listen, profit can wait. Like that, oh my God, that kills me. They're like, I have to grow now. Everything's being plowed back into the business.
Have to grow.
Have to grow. And I'm like, why do you want to grow? They're like, well, one day I'll be profitable. And that's the formula. No, like profit is a discipline. It's not something that's like a flip of the switch, like one night just all magically appears. It's got to be baked into your business.
So you've had quite a few podcasts. How many do you have currently?
Oh, just GMAP. I retired. I sunsetted mine.
Sunsetted.
Yeah,
could come
I was gonna say
back.
I
retired.
liked yours.
Oh, you were the guy listening, Scott. Like
I was maybe one of the only ones.
I think I had one listener. Me too. Maybe my mom was like checking in every so often, but I just couldn't justify the time and effort to do it based upon the readership and quote unquote return.
Right. No, that makes sense. And how about the following on GMAP? You guys have been doing it quite a while.
Yeah, that one. Right, we've been doing it for quite a while. We believe there's quite a few listeners. It's really hard to tell because downloads doesn't mean people are listening, but we do know our own membership. It's an outlet for them that's outside of membership. So our own members, we have about 600 accountants and bookkeepers active in our program, are listening in, and so it's primarily to be of service to them, and then anyone else that benefits from it. My gosh, that's a great thing.
I want to know how you interact with your accountant.
Regularly.
So what do you want from your accountant?
Well, so when there's a divergence in our cash flow expectations, and the only reason I would believe that there is divergence is I file profit first. I log in every day. If the numbers aren't where I expect them to be, I just call them and say, hey, Keith, what's going on? I'm actually more active with my bookkeeper. She's more the day-to-day, like check-in. But my accountant, then I'm like, what's going on and what can we do to improve what's working, to fix what's not working, and then reduce taxes too. So I probably talk to him quarterly by default, like that's our schedule. And then impromptu, maybe once every month, but my bookkeeper every day, almost every other day.
What do you talk with your bookkeeper about every day?
Well, that's the cash flow kind of tweaking. So we see things are up. We're like, hey, what's going on here? What do we do? And we're like, oh, your collections are working. And then we go, oh, is that because we're actually doing collection calls? Well, we try to correlate stuff. Cost control. Subscriptions are out of control. And I look at them constantly and say, well, what duplicative stuff are we using? Like, why do we have a CRM and a separate email system when that CRM has an email system and the email has a CRM system? Like those type of nuanced things. And it's just nice to have a second set of eyes too. Like we're doing it's called an overpayment on a variable life insurance policy. It's a little bit of a tax benefit if you do a certain way. And just by talking to my bookkeeper so frequently, we found out that we could tweak that a little bit more and make a faster payment earlier. It would serve us better. It's very nuanced stuff, but because it's such a high frequency, we're catching these things.
Yeah.
So you're looking to your bookkeeper for more of like the day-to-day detail stuff.
Yeah.
But then when you need a bigger picture thing,
strategy,
you reach out to your CPA.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
You got to have the details right to be able to have those bigger conversations.
Oh
too.
yeah.
So.
He's my CPA is pretty good. He's like, your bookkeeper, we work with lots of them, spot on. And I wonder if that's because we're so critical of it constantly. I mean, she's an excellent bookkeeper, but I wonder.
Well, you can't have a bad bookkeeper.
Oh, there's a lot of bad ones out there. There's a lot of
But
bad
I would say you can't,
Oh, I can't.
That would be bad.
That would be bad. My bookkeeper's out.
You got your pick of the litter. Right? How many members are in Profit First Professionals?
600. A little bit more than that. Wow. But that's internationally too, not just the U.S.
We always ask all of our guests. Right. So most of our listeners are firm owners. Probably your demographic too. So give them one piece of advice other than Profit First that they can really take to heart when they're running their business.
Okay, well, I'll pull another one from one of my books because this really works, is to remove yourself from the business, you have to remove yourself from the business. I think we're just trying to work our way to one day have freedom. So I challenge everyone to schedule a 4-week vacation. I write about that in one of my books, but book it. And I'm not saying for tomorrow. I'm saying for a month. I'm sorry, a year to 2 years out from today. And what happens when we book it is there's a mind shift. It's like, holy cow, I'm about to leave my own business for a month. I can't do this. But then the mind kicks in overdrive and says, how am I going to do this? When you set and commit to these big goals, your mind reverse engineers the way to get there. So that will be a big...
That's clockwork.
Yeah, it's clockwork. Right. I just didn't want to say it.
I love that.
I wanted you to say it. I was staging for you.
I've read all your books. I love them. I haven't read Get Different yet, though.
Oh!
You've been amazing. Thanks. Tell us where we can find you really quickly if you're interested in joining your community.
So yeah, the community is profitfirstprofessionals.com. That's the place to go.
And he has great quotes from Oprah and Bill Gates on there.
Oh, that's on my site. That's MikeMotorbike.com. So if you want to see me personally, it's Mike Michalowicz, but no one can spell it or pronounce it. Go to Mike Motorbike. Yeah. MikeMotorbike.com, nickname from grade school, G-rated. And you'll see some stuff, some famous celebrities that I'm buddies with.
Famous celebrity quotes. Mike, you've been amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Mike.
All right, I got to roll, guys.
Now we can do a little recap here.
The question, do you believe in Profit First?
I mean, it resonated with me when I read it because that's what I was doing with our clients and the way that we were telling them to run their business. That's exactly what we were doing. We were over withholding for their taxes, making sure that their taxes were paid first, making sure they were paying themselves first. We were setting up how much they were going to take as distributions. We were doing everything on the front end, so then they had to re-engineer how they were spending and what they were doing with their business on the back end. And then so when I read Profit First, it was like, oh, this is everything that we do already, but like some very, very detailed instructions.
So did you do that with your own firm?
Yeah, I mean, not Profit First exactly. We didn't take the methodology exactly, but it's really just the theory and the.
So why did you not take it? Why did you not do it If you're doing it for your clients, why do you
Because
not
I
do it for
didn't have
yourself?
5 bank accounts, and I didn't want to mess with that. I think that's easier now with Relay.
Is
You
that
can
what
do
you're supposed
things
to
like
do?
that.
You're supposed
Yeah,
to have
you
a
gotta
bank
have 5
account.
bank accounts. You got to have a bank account for everything. The reason I didn't do it is because you had to have a bank account for tax withholding. You had a bank account for your owner's salary. You had a bank account for bills. You had a bank account, like 5 different bank accounts. I didn't think that was necessary. But
Is
I
he
thought,
sponsored by Wells Fargo?
I don't know. But I think Relay would be a good partner for that. So, and people do that.
Yeah,
They-
profit first with Relay.
two times a week or 2 times a month, they schedule their day to do the transfer. And it's like 10% of all revenues go to this, and 5% of all revenues go to this, and 20% of all revenues go to this. And then you've distributed all the income into the other 4 bank accounts. And then you go from there and do everything else. So we were doing it a bit differently because we predetermined their withholding, and we would put it on, as most of our clients are S corps. So we would just do over withholding on there, and whichever much, they didn't have to hold it in an account because the IRS was holding it and state was withholding it. We did similar though. It's more or less like it's a philosophy and a system. So to get the philosophy is to also change the way you think about running a business.
Yeah.
And then how you implement it. It's different.
I
for
do like
everybody.
what he said, which was like, I think, the tech companies have like trained us to be like, it doesn't matter about profit. Like it's only about your subscribers and your gross revenue. And, that's what people want. But that might work for technology companies. Maybe. But like for accounting firms, that makes no sense to do it that way. And like a lot of these firms, they grow by buying these other firms. They get all this debt to grow the top line, but then their bottom line doesn't grow. That never made sense to me.
Well, it's never going to make sense to you, and it's probably not going to change.
Well, I think
for
they
a lot
do
of
it because they're like, I want to sell my firm. So like we have to grow gross revenue. And the only way to grow revenue in their minds is to buy other firms.
Well, and it works for some people, though. It doesn't work
sure.
for you, but for Dane Emmerman, he told us the whole story about all the practices that he bought, all the troubles he had, and then he turned around and sold them, and now he works for zero. He still doesn't have an accounting firm, but he said he doesn't regret anything that he did. He probably would have still done it again. And like Michael Lee, he's buying up a firm a minute. Every 2 weeks, he's bought a new firm. Every couple months. So some people thrive on that kind of chaos, I guess. And then some people realize they just want it a little bit more simple.
That goes against profit first.
It does. I would think so. We didn't talk about acquisitions in there. We didn't talk about how that fits it in. Because it's a philosophy of running a business. You can have profit first and still be acquiring other firms.
Right. But I guess you're then just taking on debt to pay yourself. Potentially.
Right. And the debt payments that's part of profit first is part of it goes to loans and goes to paying off debts so you can be debt free. So part of the philosophy is you sacrifice on, if you come into the profit first methodology with a lot of debt, then you're going to have to sacrifice paying yourself to get that debt paid off. So then at the end, you've got more in that bucket to be able to pay yourself.
So what I don't understand about this is like when you need to hire somebody, or you need to hire somebody potentially, but that'll take a temporary hit to your profit.
Mm-hmm.
How does profit first kind of explain that?
Financial sense is what you're referring to. That's a different app, different conversation altogether. So I don't know. I would think that it's just the same as debt or anything else. You have to prioritize.
But I think the whole theory, which is like, you can't run a business and not make money and pay yourself. Like you have to focus on, like, this is your business that you're running, and you have to make a living the way you want to make a living, and you have to set that profit first sense.
Reframe
and figure out if you're not making money, why is it not happening, and figure out a way you can make it happen.
Right. Well, you're faced with that reality when you don't have any more money to spend. So you want to spend it on this. If you're very rigid about that plan and about that philosophy, and you come to before the end of the month and you don't have any money to spend on, I don't know, this marketing efforts or this next thing. I mean, that's where you're going to be forced to really make a decision. If you can't pay yourself, then you just go hungry, right? That's the entrepreneurial poverty. You know, it's sad, but at the end, that's the last thing they do is pay themselves. They pay everything else and they make all these other business decisions thinking there's money in the account. And then when it comes down to the owner paying themselves, they can't. So it's owner thinking about themselves first. It's like put your mask on before the kids. So
makes sense. You know, the profit first thing though, it does go like against, you know, like Simon Sinek's why. Like, why do you do this? It's like kind of different than that, because Simon Sinek saying you got to find your purpose, and your why is what's the most important, and that will, you know, profit. If you have a good why, you will make profit. Okay. But you don't focus on profit, you focus on your why. Whereas this is focus on your profit. But there's an inherent push and pull to that.
Is there? Like, so first your why is to figure out why you're in business and why you're doing what you're doing and what you should be passionate about. And you need to figure that out before you're worried about profit first or anything else. Because if you're in the wrong business, profit doesn't matter.
I think there's more to that than the why. Like, the why is like your purpose, and you're focusing on the purpose, and the purpose is not profit. In fact, he specifically says, Simon Sinek, that it's not money.
Right.
And profit first is focus on getting paid first and doing everything. So it's
profit first is a system. It's not I did say it was a philosophy. It is a way of thinking about it, but it's also the system that's in place. But I don't think that they are mutually exclusive. I think that they definitely go hand in hand because one comes before the other. This is definitely not a chicken before the egg thing, because you can't be in business if you don't like what you're doing. And it doesn't matter. The money's not going to matter if you hate your life. So you got to have one before the other. Then if you're in a business that you love and you have found your why, then you should be focused on profit. Simon Sinek doesn't ever say not to focus on profit. It's, you know, finding your why.
No, he actually says if you find your why, you will be more profitable.
Yeah. You will be, because you'll enjoy what you're doing, and every ounce of your blood and mind and time that you're putting into this business is going to be rewarded with the reward of I'm making a difference in whatever Mike Michalowicz, his why is eradicating entrepreneurial poverty. And he does that by writing books, by doing podcasts, by being speaker and all of that. So he found his why, and now he's finding his profit because he's running his business differently.
It just seems interesting. Like, if you just say, I want to be 40% profitable, like, is that going to happen? I want to be like, where's the number where it doesn't make sense? Like, I want to be 90% profitable. Is that possible? The
philosophy of finding your why is also just not necessarily just a philosophy, but it's a way of life. It's like what you were born to do, you know? So, yeah. And I would have liked to have got into that, where he talked about his why. One thing that James Clear talks about in his book, Atomic Habits, is not focusing on goals, but focusing on systems and processes, and then the goals come. So this hybrids both of those together. So if you focus on the system and the profit and the processes of profit first, and your why is apparent and you're doing what you want to do, then the goals will get there. And that's what Atomic Habits is all about.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, let's end it there, Scott. I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Hi, class is in session. It's time for shoperations at accounting. Hi, class is in session. It's time for shoperations at accounting. Hi, class is in session. It's time for shoperations at accounting. Hi, class is in session. It's time for shoperations at accounting. Hi, kids. Do you like operations? It's Wednesday Accounting High, talking systems and processes. Talking shop about operational balances, accounting, workbench to workflow challenges. Hybrid teams for Pete's sake, I'm trying to manage through screens, but I can't figure out which Zoom window's my next meeting. And Dr. K says,
Acuity uses EOS. Entrepreneurial operating system.
Well, since 2012, my firm's been in the cloud. Join us as we go deep, I'll try not to run it to the ground. We're sharing profit and loss and managing back office. The tax staff just quit, tried to hire on LinkedIn, no luck. And scope creep, team count CAS, automate tax, compliance transactions, ID and bottlenecks. Come on, ops. Scotty, wait a minute, it's my firm, dog. I know, and I said you could run it however you want. Hi, class is in session, it's time for shoperations at accounting. Hi, class is in session, it's time for shoperations at accounting. Hi, class is in session, it's time for shoperations at accounting. Hi, class is in session, it's time for shoperations at accounting. Hi.